Well, welcome to Trapline today. We appreciate you being here. We got a great guest today. It's going to be Gerald Schmitt from Schmitt Enterprises. And as always, if you're looking for some great trapping information, make sure you go to thetrappermag.com and get yourself a subscription. With that, Gerald, how are you, buddy?
Very good.
Good. I hadn't seen you in probably about a year, and I actually seen you now counting here on the computer. I've seen you twice in about 3 days. Did you have a good FTA convention?
FTA was better than expected. It was a good crowd and a lot of people from a lot of different states.
Yeah, it seemed
So,
like
uh,
Mike and his whole team really did a nice job. It was nice. We were in air conditioning because it was hot out.
it's still hot here in Minnesota, but it's going to be better. But yeah, Mike and Carrie did a fantastic job
Yeah, I know you're a good friend of his.
along with all the volunteers.
Yeah, it was nice to see them have a successful convention, and I think a lot of the dealers were happy when they left there, and that's truly what it's all about, trying to further everything down the road. Because as you and I both know, uh, the industry it's tough right now. You got muskrat, raccoon, coyote, the three main driving forces of a fur market, to where uh, the cost of production is actually more than you can get when you're on there.
100% correct. Yeah, fur is, if you look at it historically, it's probably as cheap as it's ever been. If you figure in inflation and everything, like you said, the main animals, muskrats, raccoon, mink, coyote, red fox are all really low right now.
Yep, yep. Uh, I kind of wanted to give you an opportunity before we get into some of the question stuff. I don't, obviously we all have our own trapping experiences and histories and things like that. But I kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about, your and your wife Doreen's business, Schmitt Enterprises. Like, when did you start that? And really, what was the catalyst to where you thought, I think I'm going to start this business?
Well, actually, I went to college at Mankato State University. I got an accounting degree, and we kind of did the business part time after that. And then when it got to the point where it was hard to keep up with that and my other job, we just went full time. I was the first one that quit my job, and then probably about 5 years later, Doreen quit her job, and we've been doing it full time ever since. That would have been about 1993 when I started full time, and Doreen about 5 years later. So we've been doing it quite a while.
That's quite a while, three decades plus, 30 years, and I'm sure you've seen the ebbs and flows of the industry that makes up this industry. And actually, what makes it so fun, it's almost like, to me, I kind of equate it to the stock market, where you don't truly know what the next day holds a lot of times. This industry in general.
That's exactly true. You just never know from year to year what's going to happen. Perfect example is the way the skunk price
Yeah.
kind of spiked this year at the auction. $80 average, roughly, and everything sold.
Isn't that just crazy? Everything else is $2 for a muskrat, $2 for raccoons and skunks, $80.
Exactly. So people are going to jump on that bandwagon, and
Yeah.
honestly, nobody knows how long it'll last. Nobody knows.
I guarantee you there'll be more than the number offered there this year, next year. There's going to be a few people out there trekking the prairies looking for skunks. That's for sure.
You bet.
But one of the first, well, actually, you were one of the first people that I had met at the 2003 NTA convention, when I was starting my processes and my mindset of, I want to do outdoor videos and this, that, and the other thing. And I had met you, and for being as green as I was behind the ears, not really truly understanding the industry and how it worked. And it's really hard. This isn't a knock on the people in our industry, but it is really hard for an outsider to come in and feel welcome immediately. And you and Doreen were really welcoming to me. And in all actuality, you were a big part of how the video series really started. I was doing my first videos. I think I reached out to you, I think, to see if you would carry them, on your website and buy them wholesale. And you're like, "Well, do you have an interest in, possibly working together and doing some other videos?" And we ended up doing the two Bob Went videos together. You were the person that was behind the wholesale avenue of those. And then also, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to actually do one of my most favorite videos or DVDs I've ever done. And one of my most memorable and enjoyable trips with Mike Gursky in Canada. Uh,
Good.
you know, Tell me a little bit about what you thought when I'm coming up to you and like, I'm going to do videos, and we're just like, this kid's not going. He's not going to do this or whatever.
I guess I didn't think that. I mean, I knew you were a straight shooter, and I thought a lot of you doing that. I knew you were very knowledgeable about what you're doing. I just had no idea how the video thing would explode
Yeah,
into the mapping thing, and it exploded beyond what I ever thought it would. And we did the Thorpe videos together,
yep,
and between those and the Lent ones, we sold thousands upon thousands of them
yep.
over the years. And
Well,
Jim Thorpe was a guy I looked up to when I was a kid growing up and seen his ads,
yeah, yeah.
and I never thought I'd be selling his videos.
Yeah, well, actually, for anybody out there that's watching this, you own them.
Now, some strange way we
I,
24 ones now.
yeah, you actually, you purchased those from me back when, my career in the outdoors has been all over the place within reason, within the industry. I was doing the hunting TV show, and then started the North American Trapper Show actually in 2010. I was able to accomplish that goal of being the first trapping show on television with F&T title sponsoring that. And then a couple years later, they took over the executive duties, and we changed the name to Freedom Outdoors, the Freedom Rant stuff. But, when I look back on that time, from that 2005 to 2015, that was kind of the window of where the DVDs did really well. And me personally, I think people were thirsting for that information. I think we hit a time or a window that was just so ripe for the taking. We didn't recognize it, I don't think. We didn't realize it. It was just there was really nothing else out there, and we were hitting that place where people wanted more knowledge, and they were willing to pay for that knowledge, and they were getting good knowledge. The Johnny Thorpe videos, the Bob Webb videos, two of the best videos I think information wise that I've ever done were the two Bob Webb videos. They were just jam packed, nonstop action for 2 hours each or an hour and a half each, whatever they are. But what's your thoughts on that kind of that 10-year window?
I agree. Yeah, there was definitely a thirst for knowledge, and you've seen all kinds of guys putting DVDs in the market in that time frame. Some good, some not so good.
Yep.
Because we're always very professionally done. And like you said, you went out and found the top trappers and went out on the line and filmed them, and took your time and took several days generally, and went back and edited them to get to the best part of the knowledge, and put together a nice product. And I think anybody that bought them, definitely did receive very good value for their dollars.
No, absolutely. And anybody that's out there watching this, if you are looking for the Johnny Thorpe videos or the Bob Went videos or whatever, Gerald has those. You get on his website, schmittant.com. He'll be more than happy to get you out some copies. I mean, we did, if I'm not mistaken, there's a total of 13 different Thorpes. Actually, there's 12, and then there's the 13 SKU, which is actually all 12 of them in a complete DVD set.
Correct. Yeah, there's 13 individual videos, and then the 12 video set.
Yeah, and you know, you want to talk about knowledge. I mean, each one of them is at least an hour. Mostly they're in that hour and a half range. You're talking 15, 18 hours of Johnny, and that's actually edited footage. That's like top of the line footage that, you know, when you think about that. I was going up there, I think I went up there a total of 10 years.
Yeah.
Like every year you're like, hey, does Johnny want to do more videos? And well, let me give him a call. Johnny, you want to do another video? Yeah, well, I'm going out west, Alan. And I ended up flying to Arizona, renting a car, driving into New Mexico, spending 5, 6 days with him there to do those Western ones. And that was a really interesting time for us. That whole DVD craze, because really the people were just thirsting for the knowledge, and obviously YouTube has changed the viability of that market.
Correct. Yeah, Johnny was just a titan of the trapping world. I mean, everybody kind of looked up to him when they were a kid growing up, and his videos, just for the fact that Johnny, are interesting just to hear him talk. He's kind of got a unique style of speaking, as you well know, and
Yep.
he's just one of the most well-known trappers that there's ever been.
Yeah, and you know, it's you made a good point there. The interesting style of speaking or whatever. He just had an aura that drew you in, with the stories, the history. You know, you want to talk about a living legend. I believe he was inducted into the National Trappers Hall of Fame, and I think 1988, if I'm not mistaken. It was in that range. And he didn't, you know, he passed away in 2015. You know, he lived almost 30 years being a inductee into the National Trappers Hall of Fame. And that says something about, you know, how much he was revered by the community. And, you know, it's for me, it's very humbling that I had the opportunity, but to have all of that footage on those DVDs to where anybody can still gather and gain that knowledge that he gave is a really good thing.
You're kind of keeping history alive with the Johnny Thorpe footage, and people can watch him for years to come. Some of the guys a little bit before Johnny were in the era before there was DVDs, and their names are kind of fading from history a little bit. Fade even more as time goes on. I do remember when I kind of first got in the supply business going, I remember getting an order from Johnny Thorpe, and I'd always known who he was and kind of, you know, looked up to him somewhat as a trapper. And I get this envelope from Needles, California, and he'd ordered some Northwoods traps. He always had a unique signature with, I don't know how to describe it, but their signature and an order from Johnny Thorpe and a check in there. And I just thought it was really neat that he'd order from us. So
That's pretty cool.
we're kind of like meeting someone that you look up to, like in sports or whatever. So
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And he does have a very unique signature. And his handwriting, you can tell his handwriting. It's just so it's almost it's like round and it's kind of bold and and then he always as time went on, I don't know if he had it on yours, but he'd always put a paw print on it. Yeah,
I believe there's a paw print on there.
yeah, he'd always make a little paw print. So pretty cool. I want to get into some of your background. You wrote the book. Did you do a video with the book?
We did do a video. It's out of print now. It was kind of when the videos were fairly early, and the production quality isn't comparable to what's on the market now.
Well, your book, Mega Make Methods, I believe, is the name of it.
Correct.
Yep, and you trapped mink pretty hard consistently in Minnesota on the bigger waterways and smaller waterways or whatever. But if I'm not mistaken, you caught over 800 or over 900.
764 was a number, and I believe it was 1998.
1998, you put 764 mink in the boat or in the truck or whatever. And tell us a little bit about that experience. And you know, I obviously you had to do a lot of work if you're catching 784 mink. And you know, I think you've told me before a lot of them were pocket sets. I'm going to allow you to elaborate on that, but that's a lot of work that goes into it. You got to be very driven to go out there. But tell us a little bit about that season, particularly, uh, how that all went about, and kind of tell us a normal day and moves through your line.
Yeah, basically, anybody that traps in the northern states, you're usually up against the weather. So you might have a 2 or 3 month season, but the reality is you're going to get froze out at some point and not be able to trap open water. And this was a year where it just stayed open a long time. I mean, we had a couple bad blizzards, but things melted off and then stayed open. And I basically trapped 7 weeks of open water, which is almost unheard of. Normally, you'd get 2 to 3 weeks, and after 3 weeks, you were on borrowed time. But it was about 7 weeks, and it froze up right before Christmas. And basically, you just trap a line for a few days and pull it and move it and set another line. So I was either pounding pockets in all day or checking traps all day.
That's cool.
So
Yeah, and that had to be. I would think that that gave you. It's not that obviously you're a great mink trapper. You don't go out and catch 700. It's not that you're like I'm the best mink trapper and I'm pounding my chest, but that had to give you some sense of accomplishment at the end of the year. Like, wow, man, that's really what a great year. And obviously you look back on all the work that you put into it. And the point I'm getting at here is I kind of want to get your opinion on this. You see the big barn pictures at the end of the year, and they're maybe in front of the car that they're taking the picture from up high or whatever. Me personally, when I see that picture, I don't go, wow, they're the best trapper ever. I go, wow, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of skinning.
that's exactly true. The set's the easy thing. It's just going out and doing it in line management. And I guess at the time, I mean, I was just working hard and tired. I wasn't really thinking about the numbers, but like you said, at the end of the year when it all was said and done, and I thought, boy, that was a heck of a year. It'll be really hard to duplicate that. But it's just simple sets over a lot of area, and people sometimes don't realize sometimes they think there's a secret set or something, but it's generally someone with a simple set just working really hard and knowing when to pull a line and move it. And it was just a time where I was well prepared to trap hard, and the opportunity was there, and the weather was there, and it just one of those years where everything fell into place.
Kind of the perfect storm in your favor.
Exactly. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Not that you can show it here or whatever, but maybe you can explain it for somebody that wants to go out there and trap make, no matter where they're at. Pocket set's going to work for you pretty much east to west. Tell us a little bit about how you would normally make your pocket. I'm sure if you were out doing this on a long line, you were pounding these in extremely quick when you would stop at a stop, whether you're pounding 2 or 3 in, one each side of the stream, whatever that is. Tell us a little bit about how you make your pocket set and what somebody out there, if they wanted to target mink, could do very easily and be successful.
the pocket set basically is just a hole in the bank. And for mink, you basically want to force them into the water. So if the bank isn't straight up and down, you need to kind of shave it off so it is straight up and down. And I use a tile spade, which you can move a lot of dirt really fast with a tile spade. And basically I dig into the bank, maybe the length of the tile spade if it's easy digging, and pull a plug out. And you want your pocket about as wide as your trap when the trap is set. Mink are known for hugging edges. So if you have gaps on the side of your pocket, they're going to go in around, and you're going to miss them. So basically you want one jaw touching each side of your pocket, and your trap kind of uptight, maybe half in and half out of the mouth of the pocket. So when you got that chunk of fish in the back of the pocket, the mink, he has no choice but to go over the trap pan to get into it. And that set'll catch mink, muskrats, raccoon, otters. It's just a really effective overall set. But it's not that difficult. It's just, you just have to remember to get those edges covered so they can't get in around your trap.
Yeah, and obviously, the more sets you put in, the more success you're going to have. It comes down to hard work at the end of the day,
Exactly.
And I know you most definitely agree with this, I'm sure, but the more consistent you are and you find what works for you, and you consistently do that over and over and over every stop, you're gonna get to a success level as much as you want, depending on how much work you want to put into it. No matter what critter that is, mink, muskrat,
Right.
coon, beaver, the coyote, it doesn't matter. The more you pound in the ground, the more success you're going to have.
Exactly. Yeah, you have standardized equipment. I mean, every trap's say the same, set up the same, the stakes are the same. So you just go from stop to stop, and like I said, pound traps in, 2 to 3 to 4 pockets per stop, and get back in the truck and go to the next stop.
Yeah,
Not just- I mean, just a few feet of the gravel road or highway, just going down the bank to the waterway. So it is a fast way to cover a lot of ground. I'm not walking back 100 yards or anything like that. I'm just sitting as close to the truck as I can.
yeah, in and out, quick and efficient, and you almost become like an automaton. You're on
Yeah.
autopilot. You're going, "Meep, meep, 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 meep." That's how you actually can put up some bigger numbers. Uh, what's the hardest lesson that you've learned in all of your time in the field or in the woods? Like, what do you feel it took you a while to figure out, and you're like, man, why did I wait so long to change my ways, or something of that nature?
Oh, I mean, one of the harder lessons you learn, and we probably all do, is you can't fight the weather. I mean, you can work with it, but if it gets down below zero, you're going to have thick ice. And there's been a couple times where I thought I could squeeze one more check out, and I should have pulled my traps. I didn't, and I spent a couple days chopping everything out of the ice. So, and the same thing if you're going to get a heavy snowfall, uh, yeah, the mink are going to move, but you're going to have a hard time getting to your traps. So maybe pull your traps, and you can always reset them. But other than that, not a hard lesson to learn, but a lesson that everybody does learn eventually if you're successful is you can't worry about what everybody else is doing. You just need to, put your nose to the grindstone and go work hard and do your own thing. And hard work can overcome a lot of obstacles.
That's actually a great point. Hard work you're gonna be able to beat down some doors and get through some of those mistakes for sure.
Yeah, you have to realize that whatever you do in life, you're going to have obstacles in the way, and either you can quit when the first hard thing happens, or you can just decide you're going to work through it somehow and keep moving ahead. Same as being in business. Things aren't always easy in business, but you just got to handle each situation as it comes up. And traveling the same way, you're going to have truck breakdowns. You're going to have the weather, uh, be tough on you. You're going to have landowners upset with the other trappers, but you just can't let any one incident get to you, and just work through things and keep going.
Plug away, plug away. You were talking about, since we're talking about mink, I'll ask you as well. I actually, when I got my driver's license back in the mid 80s, my first year, my goal was to catch 100 muskrat. I did. I accomplished that. I still to this day, I can't be sure if it was 113 or 117. It was one of the two. I got either 113 or 117. And in Pennsylvania, where I lived, you're not getting the big marshes where you're catching 50 in one spot. I catch 4 here, 3 there, 5 here, 2 here, 1 here. I put a lot of miles on. Well, Pennsylvania, we get snow. And people ask me all the time, would you learn the most, and what DVD or what book and this and that and the other thing. And I got to be honest with you, I found a mink track coming out of the Susquehanna River, running up Annis Creek, which is close to where I live. We always set that point. I still set it to this day because I stole it from my father because it's such a good spot, and he gave it to me. But I ran snow, little fresh snowfall, a couple inches, whatever, and I hit a mink track coming out of that river, and I followed that probably about 100 to 150 yards, or maybe 200 yards up the creek. And the way that mink ducked and dived, and it went in this hole, didn't go in this hole, went into the water here, come out of the water here, up under this root. I learned so much in that 150 yards that to this day, if I walk a stream, and maybe I'm even trout fishing, if I walk a stream or whatever, I'm thinking like a mink. And I'm fortunate enough to have that snow, and I'm sure I just kind of wondered if you had any experiences like that where, with the snow out there, if you've ever, follow, I'm sure you have, but follow to make and just kind of see the nuances of how just there's just really no rhyme or reason a lot of times. Why would he duck in that hole but not that hole? And then you start to realize, well, that hole, that was a dry hole. That hole was a wet hole. Does that make sense? Did you ever have an experience like that?
Yeah, I followed the mink tracks before too, and like I said, it's fascinating how they operate. It just kind of shows you that they're kind of a high strung animal and looks like they're, I mean, constantly on the move. They don't
Yeah.
really slow down very much, and they're
I,
ducking in the boat and
I
here and
don't think they
there.
stop. I
No,
don't think there's one time you ever see where they stop. It's like an otter
exactly.
too. Otter don't really stop.
No, they're always on the move, and they cover a lot of ground, and they're always, I think, uh, hunting when they're moving, and they're always looking for opportunities to catch something. So
Yeah, that meant so much to me. That's almost 40 years ago, and I still remember. I can still, in my mind, vision that the way that mink ran. I, I, I guess I'm bringing it up for anybody out there that if you have snow or you have that opportunity, man, that snow can be used as a blanket of information, not just for mink, but that can be used for coyote, fox. You hit a fresh track and you walk that track, you're going to see what they're doing in all of their natural movements, which is going to allow you to become a better trapper and a better outdoorsman overall.
correct.
Well, I want to move forward here. I got another question for you. What would be an old school wisdom? Like, what's a piece of old school wisdom that you may have learned from somebody back in the day? Uh, that still to this day you just this I swear by this. Like, what do you what gets you to that point where you just that's just old school?
One thing I guess would be if a location's good enough for one trap, it's good enough for two or three or four. I try to never set just one trap at a location. So that's something that's caught a lot of fur for me over the years. And it's something some people just set one trap at a location and drive a couple miles and set another trap. But I think it's going to hurt you if you don't set multiple traps at each location. And that's something I learned early on in my trapping career, but it's something that's, I think, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's for every critter too. If it's good
Right.
enough for one coyote set, it's good enough for two. If it's three, depending on the sign or mink or even beaver, depending if you're going to put one there, if you feel that that's such a good location, you might want to put more than one.
Correct. Yeah. Canine trapping's the same way. You want to put at least a couple dirt hole sets or whatever, or a couple snares in the trail or body grip traps if you're trapping raccoons in the trail. So
Exactly. What like we talked a little bit about your history with Schmitt Enterprise or whatever. Take us back to what got you started in trapping. What was your father or your grandfather, what was the catalyst that kind of instilled that fire within yourself and kind of bring us into, you know, the catalyst that's kind of got you where you're at today?
well, my dad never trapped, but he hunted a lot, so I did that. But my great uncle had a couple traps hanging, and somehow my dad got a hold of those and gave them to me. And he'd go out and visit a farmer on a big Cottonwood River, kind of south of Sleepy Eye, where I grew up. And he'd just hang out with the farmer while I'd go set a handful of traps. And this was before I had my driver's license, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know about the Trapper magazine. I didn't really have any knowledge at all. And my first sets were pretty laughable. I did eventually, after about a week of checking, I caught a raccoon, and it just kind of went on from there. I mean, I think I caught a handful of muskrats that first year and a couple of raccoons and a couple mink just off of one little stretch of river, not really knowing what I was doing. So, and once I caught that first animal, just I knew it's something I really wanted to do. It's kind of hard to explain. I mean, you're an outdoorsman, you kind of know what it's like. You just kind of know that's who you are once you start doing something.
That's actually a really good point. Like, from the time that I caught my first muskrat, 7 years old, but I was even going with my father at that point, and that kind of leads me into the next question. And I don't know if you guys have the same type of traditional aspects of seasons and things, but Thanksgiving Day is my favorite day of the year. Thanksgiving Day used to be the opening day of muskrat season,
Okay.
and we would go out. You set your traps and you go have your turkey dinner, and then you watch some football and you fall asleep, and then you wake up, you start checking traps at 7 p.m., then you check them again at midnight, and then you check them again the next morning. Some of those 110s, we'd have 3 rats, the
Sure.
first night. Um, but traditionally, the tradition for years, for decades, was uh, trapping muskrats on Thanksgiving Day, trapping that weekend, and then our deer season always starts in Pennsylvania the Monday after Thanksgiving. Well, then the game commission changed the opening day to the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and it just screwed up the whole tradition here a few years back. But do you have any traditions that to this day that rings true? Thanksgiving Day is my favorite day from the nostalgia of it, the history. But have you been able to have any things that you look forward to every year as it pertains to trapping in that kind of aspects, or is that just not something that has been afforded you with your seasons or anything in Minnesota?
Yeah, it's maybe a little different where we just have the mink muskrat openers. Usually falls on it always falls on a Saturday in Minnesota.
Mhm.
Used to be at noon, now it's 9 o'clock. But basically, everybody kind of started at the same time. And our deer season wasn't until the following weekend normally. I guess the one tradition I do is I try to always get a few traps out every year. Even now with the low fur prices, and even though I'm not going to make any money at it,
Yeah,
just it's just good to get out. And every year you get out as you get older, you're thankful for still having the physical ability to be able to do that.
exactly.
You kind of appreciate your health a little bit as you get older.
Yeah. We're all getting older, and that's, wasn't a question I had on my mind. But when we do go to these conventions, and, whether it's the state conventions, or I know you actually have the state convention coming up this week in Minnesota, and this will air after it. So anybody watching this, he's not going to be at the state convention in Minnesota this next weekend. But when you go to these conventions, the average age is like me and you are probably considered middle of the pack at
Right.
our age. Yeah, like there's a vast number of elder statesmen, and there's just not that like actually one thing I was really happy about at the FTA that I saw more kids than I usually see at the conventions, and they were kind of like fired up. They were like,
Yeah.
oh, looking at the lure and stuff. But where do you see uh, what you think is going to be going on in our community over maybe the next decade, and maybe what we can do and do better as a community to try and help that process?
I guess it's probably shifting somewhat to ADC work, but it's
Yeah.
not really a money making enterprise for most people now. But what I see is guys my age and younger who trapped in the fur boom, maybe got out of it. Now their kids are getting to be 10, 12, 15 years old, sitting on the phone all day long.
Yeah.
They're just saying, I used to trap when I was a kid or when I was in my 20s, and it was a lot of fun. I think I'm going to get some traps and get you off that phone, and we're going to go out and catch a few raccoons and muskrats. And you can see how I used to do it and just go out and have a good time. And I see a lot of that now where it's not about the money, it's just about the outdoor experience. And I see that kind of being where it's going.
Yeah. And on that aspect of things, when you're talking with somebody and somebody brings up, trapping, or finds out that you own a trapping company, and they're like, "Oh, how do you explain the value of what we're doing when you just mentioned the markets are terrible. Like what are you trying to do in your processes to show that there is a value? I know memories and things of that really resonates with me, but how are you promoting that in your own practices? Because I know you're very much like me, and the it's in your soul as you move forward, and it just is who we are, as you said earlier. How are you combating those views from other people?
We're in a fairly rural area in southern Minnesota, and trapping is very well supported
Yeah.
by pretty much everyone out of the large, cities here. And most all farmers, they like to have a regular trapper on their land
Yeah.
just to keep the animals down. And it's got to the point where with less trappers, I mean, landowners, I mean, they want to hang on to you if you're trapping their land. And so they're grateful that you're doing that, and you're basically solving problems for the farmer, whether it be raccoons or beaver. I mean, beaver create problems across the whole country. So that's kind of how I position it. We don't really get into arguing with anybody
Yeah.
over it. The people we deal with are generally supportive of it, and the
Yeah.
people in the community and area, they know what we do, and they kind of get a kick out of it. So they a lot of times, little town of Searles, people stop at the bar and ask for directions and how to get to our place, and they get a kick out of it. But it's like I said, it's in your blood and everything. And going back to the convention, it's kind of bittersweet. You see these guys come by with a walker or something.
Yeah.
I mean, they walk and they just want to be around it so bad, and they can't trap anymore, but they just want to be around it because it's been their whole life.
Their whole life. Yeah, and it's we're all going to be there at some point.
Exactly. Exactly.
And anytime I love talking to the guys that are from yesteryear. I like hearing the stories, and you're still creating stories. Quite honestly, I see you sent me a picture last fall. You're talking about your community there and how people call you and this, that, and everything, and you were holding up two monster beaver that you'd went out and caught out of somebody's farm pond or wherever you'd went and got them for them. I remember you doing that last year. You were in your waders. You sent me the pictures like, yeah, I had to help out a farmer. So you're still keeping out there.
Yeah. That was a friend of mine from Sleepy Eye, and the land he rents out to a farmer. They had a field crossing there, and of course, beaver made a dam there, and then the first thing they do is tear the dam out once, plugged up the first night again. So they called me, and we happened to see him in the Mexican restaurant I went to, and later this winter, and he bought a supper the one time.
Oh, that's pretty nice of him.
Pretty appreciative, and he would have paid me, but it's not always about the money when you're doing stuff for friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anything that we can do to get out there and keep it going is a good thing. Before we let you go, we're going to do the fast five. The 5 questions, one word answer. Pretty easy. We're not putting you on the spot too bad, but
I do want to say one thing yet, but I do want to give credit to my wife, Doreen. She's been along the whole journey since we've been married and supported the business and the trapping, and she's as much responsible for my success as anybody.
Well, you know what? And it's always nice to see her and you at the conventions. And most times when I'm emailing, I'm getting an answer back from her. So she's probably more doing behind the scenes than even you are.
He set the computer up for this and told me to sit down and got the microphone and everything set up for me. So
that's awesome.
Too, so.
Doreen's the best. I always enjoy seeing both of you when we're out. And moving forward, I obviously I appreciate you being on here today, and I wish the best for both of you as the season progresses. And if you have any skunk lure, I'd start marketing that because everybody's hopefully going to be after that. All right, the Fast 5. What is your go-to set when you're out in the field? I think I know the answer to this, but what's
I'd definitely be a pocket set.
That'd be a pocket set. That was pretty easy. We already covered that. The next one, obviously, is a little different, but we've all been out in the field. And what goes through your mind? What's the one word that goes through your mind when you snap your finger in a trap?
It's basically how stupid can you be to do this again? Yeah, so,
It's usually a swear word.
exactly, a swear word, and
And I think you're an easy guy today. I think I know the answers to all these. What's your favorite animal to trap?
probably mink.
And what's your go-to bait?
It'd be fish.
Fish for a pocket set.
The carp.
And I don't think this is going to be. I don't know the answer to this because I don't think it's going to be mink. But what do you think is the hardest animal to trap? Consistent.
Probably. Oh, I'd have to say beaver that have been trapped before.
Educated beaver is a tough one.
They can get very shy. They'll hole up in their den for an extended period of time, and if they've had a 330 snapped in their nose or something, they can be pretty tough to trap.
Yeah, I'd be pretty tough too if I had a 330 wake me up. Well, Gerald, I appreciate you being on the show. Anybody out there that needs to find you can find him at schmittent.com, schmittent.com. Gerald has a really good track record, very good business, and I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your support, yours and Doreen's, through the years. I really enjoyed working with the video series is with you. It's obviously not our market anymore. YouTube has changed that, but it's always nice to catch up, and I definitely appreciate you giving us your time here today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be on, and best wishes with your podcast and your business, and look forward to doing business and your friendship in the future.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, and I will definitely talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening, guys.
All right. That's the Trapline today. We definitely appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed it. Gerald and me have gone a long way back, and it's always nice to enjoy the time with him. If you are looking for some trapping information, make sure you go to thetrappermag.com. Get yourself a subscription. It'll show up in the mail every month. As always, we hope to see you out on the line.